Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a fantastic day because we have a great show planned for you where, as is tradition, every third Thursday of the month, we of course have the one, the only, Mr. Marcel Gagne. And we're setting things up right now. We have a couple seconds, but everyone, thank you for tuning into Computer America. So obviously, the first things first, I want to, of course, let everyone know that tomorrow will be the last show for Computer America before the end of the year. We take 2 weeks off or so, and we will be back January 2nd, but December 21st will be the last program. But hey, that doesn't affect us here today. That does, though, of course, affect next week. So, if you're wondering why there's so many reruns and things like that, there you go. So, everyone, again, I hope everyone's having a great day. It's dark, it's dreary, and I can think of no better place to be than inside on my computer. Now, let's see. So before we get started, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including the show notes for our show today. And Marcel does an amazing job getting these show notes together. They are very comprehensive. They have everything that we will be talking about, and we are looking forward to that. Also, be sure to check out the live video feed, which you can also find at twitch.tv/computeramerica. And then the last thing would be the social media contest, which should be up and running sometime early next year. And that brought to you by Logitech, as always. Now, all that and more, Computer America, feel free to check out our website. We just put a new article up. I want to say 2 days ago. We just put a new article up 2 days ago. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, it's a really fun article. It was a lot of fun to write it, where we talked about the hidden aspects of technology. Where, for some examples, let's say if you have a GPS unit and you go over 1,200 miles per hour, or if you cruise over 60,000 feet in the air, the GPS unit will shut itself off because it thinks that you are a Soviet cruise missile. So yeah, don't do that with your GPS unit. We also found things like why your printer can't print money. If you ever wondered why you can't just slap 100 on the flatbed scanner and make yourself a bunch of money, we go over things like that. It's a fun article. Check that out at our website. Now, he's waiting oh so patiently in the wings, and we're just going to go ahead, bring him on, and he is the one, the only, Mr. Marcel Gagne, Cooking with Linux, and of course, our resident Linux expert. And why don't we switch scenes here so you can see him. And Marcel, how you doing? Actually, I take that back. We cannot hear you. Let's see. So, is that on my end or your end? Let's see, test audio. And wow, that might actually be on my end. All right, so 1 second, sit tight. And we're going to try that. And wow, man, I just had all of this working. I am so not happy that this is not working. Let's see. Oh wait, and then I just crashed it. So just 1 second, folks. I'm really sorry about this. Let's see. So we're going to call him. And, oh wait, I need to change the settings before we do that. Hey, the joy of live radio. Let's see. So audio and some live troubleshooting here. And we'll do that. Test audio. That, of course, does nothing because why would it? That does nothing. And what about this one? Hey, that does something. All right, we'll do that. All right, everyone. So why don't we go ahead, get him on, and I am so sorry for that to happen. Let's try again. This segment brought to you by Skype. There we
Hello?
go. And hey, we can hear you. That's all my fault. I am so sorry.
I have no idea what happened. It came up and said poor network connection, and then that was the end of it.
Well, now it's good network connection, and we hear you loud and clear, and everything seems to be good. So, Marcel, how
All
you
right,
doing?
let's blame Skype. Let's blame Skype. I think we should blame Skype.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, obviously, it's been a little while. So, how you been? Everything good?
I'm doing just fine, actually. I have actually my earpiece in at the moment, so we'll pretend that that's going to make things good. But I apparently have a bit of an ear thing going on because I can't hear in this ear at the moment. It drives me crazy. You know how you get a plugged up ear when you have a cold?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm only hearing from one side at the moment. So if occasionally I go, bad, it's because...
It's okay though. For everyone else, the show should definitely be in stereo. And yeah, hey, we're happy that you could join us. I just got my flu shot yesterday, so I'm starting to
Oh,
get
did you? Well, I got mine a while ago, but
Yeah.
the flu shot doesn't protect you from colds and other things.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It's just that I'm feeling it too, but we're gonna muddle through, and
All right,
because
we'll muddle
tis the
through
season.
whatever we do.
I don't know that one,
Sorry.
but it is the season, and why don't we go ahead? For everyone out there watching the video portion, we're gonna throw up the show notes, and these will be available after the program at the website. We'll tweet them out, all that good stuff, and yeah. So Marcel, well, I'm gonna go ahead get started with the introduction because you are very prolific, and people might want to hear more from you. So introduction, please.
Oh, introduction. I'm Marcel, and I'm referred to as sometimes as the Linux chef because I did a column called Cooking with Linux for many, many years in which I impersonated a French chef and recommended wine to people and talked about Linux and open source software. I've done this on radio, like here, television. I've given talks on Linux and open source, and I've written, 6 books and a few hundred articles. I've lost count actually of the number of hundreds of articles that I've written over the years. So let's just say that there's over 1,000. I have no idea how many there actually are at this point because I don't keep track. But aside from that, so I'm this Linux guy. I happen to believe wholeheartedly. I'm what you call a true believer in Linux and open source. So I'm one of the true believers. And what else? What else? So yeah, I like wine. I like technology. I like everything that's cool and neat happening in the world. And now it's Christmas time. And the New Year is coming, and it's the solstice. So joyous solstice to you and everybody else out there.
It is, yeah. As my mom likes to point out, we're from a long line of pagans. So, yeah, happy solstice to everyone, Saturnalians, what have you.
We pretty much all are. That's right. Shining Saturnalia, joyous solstice, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and however else it is that you celebrate the longest day of the year, or longest night of the year, I should say.
And Ho Krampus, I guess. But all that being said, I'm glad that you could join us. And so for today, you mentioned that you impersonate a French chef, and obviously food and Linux, not too readily associated things. But at the same time, you've made it your own. And one way you do that is by coming on the show and introducing a wine, because obviously, a wine review, I will say, you are safely the only person this entire year. I'll give you the entire year that has come on the show and reviewed some good wine with us. So do you have one today?
I do, actually. Today, I'm recommending, and I don't have the bottle in front of me, which really annoys me now. It's like, where did I put it? Well, I know what happened is I was down to the last bit in the bottle, and of course, I grabbed another bottle. And then the show started. Anyway, it's a long story, but today is Cupcake. It's actually from a winery in California called Cupcake Vineyards, believe it or not. And
I think I've actually had this one. Red Velvet
Cupcake.
Yes.
I like this one. Now, this one is actually interesting. I'm pointing this part out because, and in the show notes, I have a picture of the bottle with my cat, Coda. Okay,
that's a good looking cat.
She's serving up the wine. She's the one that is recommending it in the picture. But anyway, I digress. Red Velvet Cupcake actually is one of those wines that I found when we were actually, I think it was just this past summer or the summer before. I can't remember. But we were renting a cottage well, if it was last summer, it was Sable Beach. But anyway, so we were renting this cottage, And I went to the local LCBO, which is, our liquor store, and they had red velvet cupcake. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And, just because it had a cool name, red velvet cupcake, I like that idea. And I happen to like red velvet cupcakes. I just want to make that clear. And they had red velvet cupcake wine, and it's actually really, really good. As in, I highly recommend this thing. And maybe, if I find the bottle, I'll flash it in front of you. Here's the bottle. You have to imagine it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's like this really deep, full-bodied red, lots of blackberry, cherry, sort of that dark fruit sort of flavoring. Got a little bit of chocolate/mocha on the palate. It's not super, super dry, but it is a dry wine. And it's just really good, really good. So red velvet cupcake, I highly recommend it. And this was the last of the bottle, so I was looking for another bottle so that I could show you a full glass. But there it is, red velvet cupcake. That's my wine recommendation today.
There you go. And for anyone out there watching the video portion, we have a picture of it. Very festive, nice red lettering, all that good stuff. So yeah,
it's festive, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very festive. So good choice. And like I said, I've actually had that one. So good taste, good taste.
Thank you.
All right, so there's the wine, and obviously everyone go grab a glass, and now we move on to the meat of the issue, because we have our drink, now we have our main course, and thank you. News, rumors, conspiracy theories, and I gotta say, and I'm going, while we do the first story, I have to go find, because I saw it I'm starting to use Twitter more, and what a cluster heck it happens to be. It's really weird, and there's a news article that I found.
Cluster pack?
Yes, yeah, sure, cluster pack. And like I found a news article, and I think I like retweeted or whatever you do on Twitter, and it was about virtual machines coming to Windows 10. And Microsoft unveils Windows Sandbox, so maybe we'll squeeze that in there as well. I don't think that's in there, but I think that's also one of the advantages of running with Linux and that kind of thing. So, but hey, Microsoft is the topic of the first story you have listed here in the show notes, and this one, obviously rumor. I don't think Windows has officially announced that they are doing this, but
this is the real deal. This is happening.
Okay.
This is happening. They are ditching the development. They have made, I have seen an announcement that says that it's official. They are ditching the Edge browser. And, they're not really ditching. They're ditching the current code base of the Edge browser. The new browser is actually going to be called Edge as well, if I understand correctly. But it's going to be built on Chromium, which is the open source code base that the Chrome browser uses.
Yeah.
And in fact, excuse me, a number of Linux users who are out there will actually recognize that Chromium is actually available as an alternative download to Chrome. So if you don't want to have the Google branded version, you can have the completely open source Chromium as the browser on your desktop.
Yeah, my first, the first thing that pops into my head when I think Chromium is the really kind of like the overall operating system of the Chromebook, and Chromium was the browser for the Chromebook. It was a bit more lightweight, that kind of thing.
Well, it was kind of, although the Chrome OS obviously is its own deal. There are of course some conspiracy theories which I do like about this, about the idea that basically Google is in part responsible for making it hard on, basically running the web, so to speak. And the way that they make sites, the way that they demand sites actually run and so forth. Because Google has an awful lot of, let's face it, there's Google. And they have demands on what websites should look like, how websites should be created. And of course, now they have the number one browser in the world. So basically, Microsoft is in a position where, do we keep spending like ridiculous amounts of resources to create something that is strictly and only Microsoft? Or at some point, do we say, it's not working, and we should switch to an open source development model for the browser as well? So I should have linked to the article in the Inquirer because it's the one that's going into the conspiracy theories part of it. But, it kind of just makes sense that they would be using an open source engine. And if you think about it, if you look over on the Mac side, Apple did the same thing when they changed their development to open source, to largely open source development. Mm-hmm. And their browser was built on the web something. I'm losing it at the moment. But the engine that comes to the KDE web engine, WebKit. KDE WebKit engine is what they use to build their new browser as well. So going open source for something that, when you come right down to it, should be open in the first place. I mean, if you think about it, the content that's out there on the World Wide Web, on the internet, should be built in such a way that everybody can actually use it and see it in the same way. The idea that it should be built for, well, here's the Firefox version, here's the Microsoft Internet Explorer version, here's the Google Chrome version, here's the Opera version. Like, it's mind-bogglingly stupid if you stop to think about it for a couple of minutes. So building everything on an open source base as far as web standards are concerned makes sense. And if you're going to build it on open source web standards, why not use an open source web engine, as what happens underneath? So it kind of makes sense to me. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
I gotta say that when we covered this the first time, because this is obviously big news, Microsoft has poured a lot of money, a lot of resources into developing the Edge browser, and for them to, and really, this is something that should be applauded. This is not something people should be twisting the knife or laughing at Microsoft about, failing. It's recognizing when something isn't working and changing course, and that's a good thing.
Well, Microsoft has embraced open source in a lot of different ways. Again, I know there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there, but I'm going to leave those to the side for the moment and say that I think Microsoft has really, they have grown up as a company. They are moving a great deal of what they do to the cloud, like everybody else is doing, offering software and computing as a service and that sort of thing. So it, the Azure cloud, for instance, it just kind of makes sense that they would embrace a lot of open source software and open source development in the products that they're offering out there. So I think it's more a question of, it's not Microsoft giving up, it's Microsoft growing up. So, right. I'm not twisting the knife in any way. I think this is fantastic. So there you go.
Yeah, no, and of course that's that should be happening. And I think the one of the interesting parts is that if you don't know about this, then really to a lot of people, Edge is still going to be around, and there shouldn't really be too many front end changes. So even the people who are like, I actually like Edge, they're like, well, not changing. It's still going to be there. So that's good.
No, I think it's all good. So there you go. I think it's all good.
There you go. And speaking of all good, millennials are only ever blamed for good things. And your next article you have here, millennials and open source and don't know, don't care. And I got to say, completely on point. When I talk to my friends who are, as literate into technology as they get, is like, they come to me when they buy a new computer because they want me to check it over. They, they ask about which phone I like, and really they don't get too much further into recommendations. Knowing how things work, why things work, not a big deal. And I'm guessing the article is something to do with that.
It kind of does, and part of the person who wrote the article. Now, I read it. I bookmarked it. I read it quite a while back there. But the whole idea is that there is an open source philosophy. Okay, and I mean, I'm fond of saying that open source is part ideology, part philosophy, and part technology. And that ideology and philosophy aspect of it was actually important to make open source as important as it is in the world today, as big a deal as it is in the world today. And you've heard me say this on the show many, many times. The single most popular operating system in the world is Linux. It's on every Android phone. It's on the Chromebooks. It runs your television, your thermostat, your smartwatch, your Google Nest, all these smart devices that you've got running in your house are all running some version of Linux and open source software in one way, shape, or form. The entire internet is built on open source software and open source standards. So this is no small thing. This is what runs the entire connected world, open source. So the idea that it was important for people like me in my generation in open source to show that open standards and open source technology could build the kind of world that we've got today, technologically speaking. It's kind of a little bit sad to think that nobody cares about that now. And as you know, I'm also associated with the. I do work with the Linux Professional Institute, which is which is a body that's a certification body that works. It's one of the hats I wear.
It's kind of like the X-Men, but for Linux, right? I gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, so the idea, it's one of the hats I wear anyway. And one of the things that they do there is, aside from certification in Linux, they also do, they promote open source and open source projects and open source software for its own sake, for, the good of the world aspect of it. And if you have a generation that's growing up that doesn't understand how this technological and connected world was built, or why it's important that it was built in a particular way, I don't know if sad is the right word, but it kind of kills the whole notion of, we do open source as not just a technological good, but a public good as well. And I think that's one of those things that is difficult for people that, are trying to promote it today. So if you're promoting to a generation that doesn't care, they just care about, hey, can I get a job? And yes, you can get a job.
Part of this,
go ahead.
And part of this, I have to feel like it's the way that technology has progressed. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing whatsoever. It's the way that to use a computer, to use a phone, to use anything, it's people put hundreds, thousands of hours, millions of dollars into the user experience, to making sure that people intuitively know how to work these devices without knowing how they work. That's why a 4-year-old can walk up to a tablet and start poking around and realizing, oh, I can open up War and Peace on this reader or whatever. Well, the point is the 4-year-old can use a tablet. Or whatever your 4-year-old does. But all that being said, it also disincentivizes the idea that you need to know the philosophy that you're talking about, the operating system behind it, why open source is better than closed source, or being able to edit that code because, hey, I can already use this. What do I care about what's happening? Like, I think as usability goes up, the incentive to figure it out and really have the philosophy that you're talking about, it never even comes into mind. Like, it's not that they wouldn't care, it's just they don't know, period.
Well, yeah, they don't know, and no, but the don't care is part of it as well. It's kind of like, I realize this is a terrible comparison, but I'm going to make it anyway. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible comparison. This whole notion of people who forget their history are doomed to repeat it, that whole idea.
Of course.
It's like, well, what do we care about a war that took place, back in 1940? Okay. Why do we care about this at all? I mean, this is 2018. Those people are long gone. This is long ago. It's a very different world than the one that we live in today. And again, like I said, these are not the same in any way, shape, or form. But I make that comparison because there are, let's face it, a lot of people who will argue, why do we need to know about this stuff? Why is it even remotely important what happened in some far-flung conflict, decades before I was even born? And I understand that. I do. But there are lessons to be learned, just as there are lessons to be learned from open source. And those lessons aren't just, hey, I can build something cool. The lessons are, you can build something cool because a whole lot of other people built stuff before you and made all that stuff available to you, made it possible so that you could take advantage of these technologies and build the next great thing. And if you forget that, then it's just another product. And as we move into a world where everything is free or kind of free, I've said this on the show before, we're living in a world where everything is either appears free. Mm-hmm. And that includes things like books and music and movies and stuff like that. Yeah, there are people who spend a humongous amount of money, but then, you spend, your $9 a month on Netflix and you get, more movies than you could ever watch in a lifetime available to you. So it feels, free-ish. It's not completely free.
It's interesting, and obviously this does tie in, but we are just now getting to the point where Facebook is getting in trouble almost weekly for providing a free service, and for the free service, you are giving up your right to privacy in a lot of regards. And Facebook is getting in trouble almost weekly. They just got in trouble 2 days ago, yesterday, about sharing private messages with Skype and Microsoft and Netflix and so on. Anything that pertains to their companies, they were given, private messages from one person to another. It's like, and that is also kind of a side effect of open source, closed source. Is like you can't scrutinize what you're actually giving up, but hey, it's you're right. It is going to affect us more and more.
Yes, 100% behind you on this. But you know what? I actually think that the fallout for Facebook is more legislative and overseeing fallout. I actually don't think, and I hope I'm kind of wrong here, but I don't think I am. I don't think most users actually give a damn about what they're giving up and these sort of things. They on some level understand that they're giving up something. I'm giving up this bit of information. I'm letting them track what I do on these sorts of things and so forth. But other than I'm going to argue, fairly small, group of society or a small part of society, I don't think anybody really cares a great deal about that. And let me explain this.
So
people post their pictures for everyone.
Before you even explain that, and before you even explain that, I just want to say that quote you just said, no one really cares except a small group, that also applies to what we're talking about, Linux. I feel like they're so analogous, but please continue.
Yeah, it does. But in the case of people's privacy, for instance, it's like, well, I put my pictures online anyway. I have an Instagram feed that I want as many people in the world to look at as possible. I go on Twitter. What do I want on Twitter? I want something that gets retweeted 1.5 million times. I want my picture to go, or my video to go viral, and what do you get for that? Well, I get some notoriety. I get a little bit of fame. I get a little bit of that. Some people obviously make real money on that, but there's a hell of a lot of people who are posting to these services who are just looking for a lot of likes and a lot of thumbs up and a lot of retweets and a lot of shares and stuff like that. And when they get that, they feel good about it. And they have arguably given up some amount of privacy, some amount of well, let's just call it privacy, because that privacy is a lot of things that happen in and around your life, but they don't care. All they're looking for is not only not privacy, they're looking for as little privacy as you can possibly get by virtue of the fact that they want it shared as much as possible.
Yeah, and really these companies and organizations have incentivized, because like you said, you get to be famous, you can make money, you can do XYZ if you happen to give us every picture that you have and you share your story, share your life with us. And they've incentivized not being private, just like I think companies have incentivized not really, caring about open source. The idea of open source and, knowing what's going on under the hood and, being able to see the code, change the code, edit the code, take the code and, continue on and innovate with the code. A lot of companies fight against that idea. It's just not in, I guess the companies believe it's not in their best interest, but,
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that more open is better than less, and in fact, I think some privacy laws, and I go against a lot of my friends here on this. I know for a fact, but I feel that a lot of privacy laws are trying to fix a problem that people don't want fixed. That they don't want fixed, and I think what we need to do is work out a way. And by the way, this is where the history of the open source, not just software, but the open source philosophy comes into play, because there is much more value in open than there is in hiding things behind privacy walls and paywalls and closed source technologies or closed formats of exchange or something like that. And that's true. I mean, that is so easy to see by virtue of the fact that, you take a look at a story and it's like, oh, I want my friends to see this. And you hit that share button. And then it goes out not just to your friends, but to everybody else in the world, because you by default, allow this thing to be public. So I think that this is one of those things that, like the millennials who don't know and don't care about open source software, I think that most people don't know and don't care about their privacy either.
Right. And hey, that's a very, very good stopping point. When we come back, might actually spring a surprise news story on you because it has been a little while since we talked, and I never got your reaction. So everyone, the music in the background means we'll be right back. More Marcel Gagne, more Cooking with Linux, more Computer America. Everyone, stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And yep. Hey, everyone, welcome back. If you missed any part of our conversation so far with Marcel Gagne, then please check out wherever podcasts are heard. You can hear it there. The video portion is on YouTube, of course. And yeah, hey, any way you listen to Computer America, perfectly fine with us. We appreciate it. And of course, grab your glass of wine, of course, red cupcake, and grab a bottle. So everyone, yeah, and by the way, our Linux shows are always the best to kind of view with video as well, because hey, like I said at the beginning, Marcel definitely does a lot of good work with the show notes, and you get to see his cat. I mean, what else is there? I gotta say, all that being said, Marcel, thank you for continuing on with us, and yep, there we go. So yeah, just for the break, we were kind of wrapping up this idea that millennials and open source. It's really I hope that Linux source people don't get discouraged. Just like a lot of things with millennials. Being a millennial myself, I know this. It's not a problem with apathy. I mean, if it's something that is worth being passionate about, they will have passion. It's simply, in my mind, it's a matter of education. It's a matter of actually cutting through the noise of your pop stars and your day-to-day politics and news. And there's a lot. Going back to our conversation before the break with social media and, getting 1 million shares, likes, retweets, whatever, there's a lot of companies and there's a lot of things vying for our attention. And unfortunately, open source, 1 million, exactly. But no, there's just a lot of things pulling our attention, and, you got to cut through the noise. So
I don't disagree with that whatsoever. It is actually difficult, and I personally don't want to beat up on millennials. Although, and this isn't a beat up. I asked my wife Sally, who actually works in IT as well. She's an IT development manager, and she goes to a lot of these maker fairs and hacker fests and things like this, where basically university students who are vying for jobs into the future spend a weekend at a hotel somewhere and basically work day and night to create a product over the course of the weekend. And I actually asked her about that. I asked her, if they're doing it for, any reasons that are, altruistic. I want to change the world. I want to show something really cool that we're working on or whatever. And she said that by and large, the answer is no. it's all about getting a job and making a future for yourself and so forth. So I get it. I totally do.
Yeah.
But let's. Shall we move on?
Let us move on. And actually, the surprise article I wanted to get your reaction on is since we last talked, Red Hat was acquired by IBM.
My goodness, is that?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether that was actually one of those things that had happened on our watch or not.
It flew right on by us. So just real quick, I don't need to reopen that wound, but I just want to say that Red Hat, if you want to give everyone a quick rundown of the organization of Red Hat and what it means to be acquired by IBM, which is one of the largest server companies, computer, machine learning, whatever it is they can do now. What does this mean?
Well, funny enough, I actually had a lot to say about this.
I'm shocked. I am shocked. I never would have guessed you had a lot to say about this. I am shocked, Marcel. But please go ahead.
It was actually a weird thing for me, and I say it's a weird thing for me because I was actually bothered a great deal by this, and I actually had a little bit of trouble coming to terms with this, partly because and in fact, let me just paste in chat the article that I wrote on this, and then that way we won't forget to include it in the show notes.
Sure.
So I'm pasting it in your Hangouts window there so that you can take a look at it. I wrote an article called "On IBM, Microsoft, Red Hat, and the Loss of Innocence." I know that's quite a mouthful for what we're talking about here, but IBM, in case people don't know it, bought Red Hat software for $36 billion. That's billion with a B. I'm going to do the Dr. Evil thing. $36 billion. Anyway, I don't do a good Dr. Evil, but I got the pinky down.
Right.
Anyway, so $36 billion. And it bothered me a surprising amount, which is weird because when Microsoft bought GitHub, it didn't bother me in the least. And if we were talking like 10 years ago or, 15 years ago when Microsoft was the evil empire and, Linux was a cancer, according to Steve Ballmer and so forth, I might have actually thought that it was a really cool and a good thing to have IBM buy Red Hat, partly because back then, IBM was putting these, the Linux Prodigy commercial. And if you take a look at the article that I just posted there, it's got
you have a video
the
to
IBM
it.
Linux Prodigy, commercials that they put out at the time. So IBM has actually been a big supporter of open source software long before Microsoft was, for that matter. And, Linux, let's face it, is big business now. I mean, as I wrote in the article, Linux has won the OS wars. It's the single most popular and used operating system on the planet. So it kind of makes sense that it is big business. But the thing that bothers me is that Red Hat is a company that is actually completely and entirely built on open source, on an open source ideology, and embracing an open source philosophy, right down to supporting the development and maintenance of a couple of alternative Linux distributions that they don't produce and sell, namely Fedora and CentOS. So having a big corporate conglomerate like IBM walk in to a place that is built not on big business philosophies. Like, again, Red Hat is a business and it's a very successful business, but it also has a culture of open source philosophically, ideologically that runs really, really deep inside the company. And IBM does not, to put it bluntly. They're a company devoted to their shareholders and to the and to the next quarter and so forth. And they have a history of being stuffy and corporate and all that sort of stuff. So it bothered me quite a bit. And I invite people to go and read the article. Yeah. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing there. But I also don't think that it's kind of over. I think that there's a possibility at some future point that, and they may even be doing it at the moment, that Microsoft is eyeing Canonical, for instance. They've had a couple of interesting little partnerships with Canonical. the people who produce Ubuntu. So this may not yet be over. And one of my predictions for 2019, whether it happens right in 2019 or not, is that the very next big version of Windows that you see, the desktop version of Windows, will actually be a Linux version of Windows. That is one of my predictions. The next big version of Windows, maybe not 10.2 or whatever the next incarnation built on Windows 10 is.
I know that, I know that Microsoft said that Windows 10 was going to be the last version of Windows, but, I called, shenanigans on that because not even from a technology point of view, like you don't need iterations anymore. Software as a service, OS as a service, whatever the heck they want to call it. The point is you can put out updates. From a marketing perspective, there will always be another operating system right around the corner. It's not, it's no big deal. But I do want to say...
Except that nobody cares about the operating system anymore. That's another thing that they don't care about anymore. They don't care if it's Windows or Chrome or whatever running on their desktop. They just want to be able to connect to the web and buy something from Amazon, right?
So here's something that I saw about the IBM acquiring Red Hat. And by the way, we just had IBM on the show. Admittedly, not IBM, the corporate stuffy people, but rather IBM Research we had on the show. Very interesting, lovely people, probably devoted to their shareholders as well. But very interesting to hear what they're talking about. I will say, though, that I saw a lot of people online. There was a lot of outrage. I'm sure you caught some of it, Marcel.
I got some of it.
Yeah, it was a heck of a time. And I got to say that everyone was like, this is the nail in the coffin for IBM. IBM's so stupid. IBM's going to go out of business. Like everyone was saying that this was the biggest financial business blunder IBM could have ever made. And I'm sitting here like, I have a bit more insight into the technology landscape than most people. I think most people, because they don't go to work and they don't work on an IBM desktop computer, that IBM is on the ropes and they're about to be dead. IBM has never been more successful. They are so crazy successful when it comes to data servers and data farms and machine learning. They do a lot of, they're making money hand over fist and they have to spend it somewhere. And I guess one of those places was to acquire talent. And they saw a lot of talent in Red Hat.
Talent and cloud-based services.
Yes.
Red Hat is really big in.
Exactly. And I guess they saw that in Red Hat. So, this acquisition made a lot of sense to me. I think that buying Red Hat and buying it for its people and its services, honestly, that's a bit of a shaky move because the people can always leave. But at the same time, I don't think this was a bad move for IBM. I can't speak to whether or not this is a bad move for Red Hat, but for IBM, it was a good acquisition. It was a good thing that they bought them.
There's one of the one of the employees inside Red Hat made a comment that for things to work out, for this acquisition to work out, that Red Hat needs to treat, IBM needs to treat Red Hat as Switzerland. In other words, you own it, but you got to keep your hands off it completely.
Right.
You have to let it operate and work the way that it always has. And
like
let
Microsoft with GitHub so far.
The way it always had, so.
Yeah, like Microsoft with GitHub has so far. They haven't tried to say, all right, GitHub is now a subsidiary of Skype and everyone's going to be able to call each other to work on code and this is going to be great. No, it's not happened that way.
Subsidiary of Skype. That's hilarious.
You're right though. Red Hat just needs to be left alone and keep providing the great service that they do and keep doing the work that they do. But having the backing of IBM with with the financial stability and whatnot, could be a good thing. So
yeah, I'm open. My concerns are still very much what they were. They're not. Can IBM destroy Linux? No, IBM can't destroy Linux.
Right.
Linux and open source projects by their nature are open projects that anybody else can pick up and run with if they actually, except of course that you need resources,
right.
And one of the things that made it possible for things to get to where they are today is the passion of individual developers that were involved in this from the beginning. So for that to happen again, you kind of have to reverse that don't know, don't care attitude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and switch gears. I just wanted see what you had to say about that because we had not talked about that. But I'm going to be looking at Canonical and see what happens next year. That would be very interesting. So let's see. So there's a couple of stories here.
Let's do just a couple of really quick stories.
I
and
want
then
you to
move on. Let's just do these like bang, bang, bang.
I was going to let you blaze through them.
You know the Mars probe that just landed? The new Mars probe?
Yes.
Well, when they were showing I've got a link there. It's a link to Reddit. They have a picture on Reddit. NASA, as it turns out, where they had a close-up of one of their desktops, and the first picture came through from the new lander after it came down. And it's a KDE desktop running Linux. So there you go.
Hey, that means that I don't know if that means that Linux is the first interplanetary operating system, but could be. Who knows?
It probably isn't. I'm sure it's whatever it is that was coded into the original lander, the moon lander.
Windows XP and Solitaire is going to be picked up by aliens before anything else. That'll be good. So there's that one. Linux website hacked and defaced, sort of. Why do you say sort of?
That's an interesting one because there was this big thing. It's like Linux.org was hacked, and no, actually it wasn't. What happened is that somebody got the login for Network Solutions DNS entry for Linux.org.
Mm-hmm.
And Linux.org had to prove that, yes, we indeed do own this domain and the joker who did this. So what they did was they redirected the DNS entry to a different server. So Linux.org wasn't hacked, but their DNS entries were taken. And this is actually one of those things that really kind of bothered me because I went and checked right after this. I have some domains with Network Solutions. Listen close, Network Solutions. I'm about to beat up on you, okay? Network Solutions, a web.com company, does not have two-factor authentication. They don't. So if somebody gets your password, they can log in from anywhere. There's no way to stop them from doing that, which is what happened with Linux.org. Somebody got their login, redirected to a different website, and had all sorts of terrible, hateful things on the other site. So that's my beat up. Network Solutions, get your act together. At the very least, two-factor authentication. For God's sake, 2018, it's almost 2019.
You think it can't happen, but there's a story that comes out every couple of years about so and so checked, and by the way, they bought the domain name for Google, Google.com, the number one most valuable website in the world. It happens to the best of them, and it happens often. So I'm not surprised at all. So let's have that, and then the last one here, the end, or actually a Christmas present, Durian Blender. What is this Christmas present that you are presenting?
Okay, this is actually an open source, like it's a film. It's an open film. It's a free movie. It's a 15-minute movie. It's completely free. You can download it and watch it. It's about a girl and her dragon. It's absolutely freaking gorgeous. Okay,
that's cute.
It's called Sintel, Sintel, and just watch this one. 15 minutes long. It's entirely made using the Blender software, the Blender, the 3D animation type software.
Right.
And this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous thing. So this is like a free Christmas present from me. Actually, I didn't make this thing, but it's a present in the sense that I'm telling you this right now. Go to Durian, Durian .blender, BLENDER.org, and just download it and watch it. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's just, you're welcome.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Looking at screenshots, all that good stuff. So with that, as they say during this time of year, peace on earth, all that good stuff. Well, I guess the best way to, all that good stuff. I guess peace on earth is really easy to achieve with the end of the world. So what?
Yeah, you know what? Let's go to the end. Let's put the end of the world at the end of the show.
We can do that.
I've been thinking a lot about the end of the world lately. Existential crisis that could destroy all humanity and so forth. It's an interesting thing to be thinking about right at the end of the year, when Christmas is coming up. But let's just leave that and go quickly to our distribution focus, and then hopefully we get 5 minutes to talk about the end of humanity.
I don't know, Marcel. You went really obscure. You went really obscure with this distribution focus. I don't know. This is all right. Go for it.
All right, let's do this. Okay, this is just, I did two, okay? One of them is like, I'm only going to spend a couple of seconds on because it's just kind of obvious. Linux Mint, which is like one of the best Linux distributions out there. Easy to use, gorgeous, beautiful. It's got codecs pre-installed. This is one of those things that you give to your friends who are running Windows, who are running Mac or whatever. and nobody is going to hate you for it. You know that, hey, since we're talking IBM here, you know that thing, nobody ever got fired for using IBM? Well, nobody's ever going to nobody's ever going to is ever going to hate your guts for recommending Linux Mint. Linux Mint is like the Linux distribution that you want to give to people if you never want to have them, get upset with you about it. It's just great. So the new version of Linux Mint, aka Tessa, version 19.1, came out yesterday, December 19th. Okay, so it's like really, really recent, but it's beautiful. It's just, it's Linux Mint, the latest and greatest incarnation of Linux Mint. Download it for yourself, make a copy, put it on a DVD, hand it out, or a USB key or something like that. Give it to friends and family. Nobody is going to hate you for this. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. That's all I'm going to say about it. Linux Mint. There you go.
All right, perfect. And
then that's something new, and then it's something old. Except that the something old is actually still sort of recent. And I'm going to throw this one out here for people who want to just mess around. Do you remember the Magic School Bus with Miss Frizzle? Do you remember her?
Of course.
On the Magic School Bus.
That's the one.
Anyway, the Magic School Bus. Miss Frizzle used to say, take chances, make mistakes, get messy. Okay? Well, this is the Linux distribution for you if you want to do this. It's called Lunar, Lunar, and people can download Lunar from lunar-linux.org. Okay, there's a link in the show notes. And what I love about this thing is, other than a basic install, so like you download an image that you can boot up, that's kind of, it works, okay? It connects to the internet and all that sort of stuff. So like everything is there to make it happen. It's a completely text-based install. It's reminiscent of like the old Slackware days where you had the blue screen and you answered questions and you went through the whole thing. And this is what you have to do with this thing. So you go through all these steps, and then when you're done, you don't even have a desktop yet. You just have a text login. And from this text login, you have to build absolutely everything. It's so much fun.
So you're saying that this is interchangeable with Mint. I get you. That's very different. And I mean, just real quick, I mean, what was the kind of inspiration behind this? Was this just, just to see how this works? I mean, why did they do this?
I try things all the time. The tagline for Computer America is, the world runs on computers and we run computers, or something like that. What has it go?
Let's see. The world runs on computers and we run computers, right?
Something like that. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, because I like software, I like open source software, I like Linux, I'm perpetually playing with different types of desktops, different types of Linux distributions. I just want to see what people are building out there.
Right. I
love the idea that there are all these crazy things that people are playing with. And this one was just like really kind of neat. And it's like this step-by-step thing. And I've got like 2 or 3 paragraphs just taking you through, just the basics. So I left like 2 or 3 paragraphs just to get people, a feel for the idea. And what you do is you have to uncompress these files that you download from its own repository of software. And then you go through a question and answer, like, do you want to build this? Do you want to build that? Do you want that aspect of it? Do you want this aspect of it? So you get to understand like everything that goes into all the packages that you build. And it's just kind of, it's torturous. Like it's almost painful, but in a way that you get like this evil sort of cackle of glee as you make this Linux distribution. I went so far as to build the entire X desktop and an entire KDE desktop on this thing. And it's crazy insane compared to, again, Linux Mint. And remember, this is a distribution that people are still working on today. This is not like something from 20 years ago, although it feels like it. This is something that people are building now or working on now. So if you want to have like some crazy, fun using modern software that feels like something from 20 years ago, just to get down and dirty, like I said, Miss Frizzle, take chances, make mistakes, get messy, then download Lunar Linux and just go nuts.
There you go. Very, very different one. And hey, that's also part of, highlighting these different distributions is that, hey, odds are people probably wouldn't have found that one. So very interesting take on.
I seriously doubt you would have run into this one accidentally. All right, shall we talk about the end of the world? I think if I look at the time correctly, we have 6 minutes, maybe 5.
Yeah, like 5. And please, bum us all out. That's a good way to go.
All right, so I've been thinking about the end of the world lately quite a bit. And I know it's like a crazy thing, but if you think about it, the world is facing all sorts of existential crises at the moment. For instance, there's climate change, which I realize there's some people out there who say that the science isn't in, but you know what? The science is in. Climate change is a real thing, and we're responsible for it. And yes, it could actually wipe us all out. Who knows? There is a way for the Earth to go to a point of no return. Just take a look at the planet Venus. That's what a runaway greenhouse effect looks like. So that's one of the possibilities. Bioengineered superbugs. You would not believe how many private labs are out there working on bioengineered superbugs and stuff like that. In fact, smallpox is one of those things that was eradicated, however many years ago. It was like a big worldwide effort to get rid of something that used to kill millions of people. And it was completely eradicated, except for the fact that there are labs that have smallpox still in them, and they experiment with them, trying to come up with new versions of superbugs and stuff like that. So that's a problem. Robots and artificial intelligence. I mean, this could be, in some ways, the end of humanity and human creativity and so forth. Imagine a super intelligent, like a general artificial intelligence that is way smarter than we are and is learning faster than we will ever learn again in as far forward as you can into the future and so forth. It effectively becomes the last great invention. It invents everything that will ever be invented from here on in. It can create every piece of artwork and movie and fiction and whatever from here on in, at which point you have to ask yourself, A, does it need us? So yes, there could be a nightmare scenario there. Or do we just become its pets from here on in until the end of time? Which is, by the way, the best scenario is that for whatever reason, it thinks, these are the people that created me. And you know what? I'm going to take care of them like I would my pet.
Are you saying that we have to bank on sentimentality from a computer?
Yes, we do. We have to bank on the idea that it loves us and it thinks it owes us something, so that it will take care of us as parents will take care of their children from now until the end of time. If their children actually need them. I mean, I know that parents will boot their kids out of the house, but the first time I speak from personal experience, the first time that something goes wrong, like 4 or 5 years after you moved out of the house when you were 19 and you're in a bad way or something like that, and you call up your parents and you say, Mom, Dad, can I move back in? And Mom and Dad say, sure, no problem. That's what parents do. So you hope that this computer thinks of us as, the aging parents that it has to take care of from now till the end of time. That's what we got to hope for. Okay, so climate, artificial intelligence, all these sorts of things. And there's still nuclear war. You don't think about that, but there's nuclear war. There's people out there who are playing with software, who are trying to figure out a way to hack the human brain to know exactly what it takes to push all our little buttons socially and economically and whatever. They could make a complete mess of things. So there are all sorts of interesting little problems that could spell doom for humanity, or at the very least set us back like thousands of years and so forth. And I am increasingly of the opinion, it's not a nice thought for Christmas, the end of the world, but I'm increasingly of the opinion that don't know, don't care philosophy, open source philosophy, the open source ideal, the open source ideology, and I'm not just talking about software, but I'm talking about the idea that we start sharing everything. We find a way to create this future when everything is free. The Star Trek universe, for instance, so that basically everyone is allowed to grow to their full potential. No one is ever allowed to be short of a meal. Every piece of information on every technology you can think of, including medicine, bioengineering, whatever the heck it happens to be, every piece of information that humanity gathers goes out of the corporate world and becomes something that we all share. I think this is the only way. I think we need all hands on board to fix all these problems. And now more than ever, we need that open source philosophy and ideology.
And everyone, the music means that we are just about done. And I can't think, obviously that started dark and we are going to, that's not exactly where we want to go, but I think we ended up in a pretty cheery place saying there is light at the end of the tunnel. And at some weird point, Marcel, I think your solution was we should share with one another. We should talk. We should share. We should as a society.
Well, toward everybody.
There you go. Yep, and all that good stuff. So, Marcel, I'll let you have the last word. If people want to find out more, the show notes are going to be up at Computer America. Anything else you'd like to tell people about?
They can find me at marcelgagne.com. On Twitter, I am WFTL, which stands for Writer and Free Thinker at Large. And on YouTube, where I do cooking with Linux videos and gaming videos and stuff like that, I am Free Thinker at Large, all one word. So youtube.com/freethinker at large or twitter.com/Wooftle WFTL. There you go.
Perfect. And hey, you did it. Good job. And everyone out there, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. And of course, Linux. Happy New Year, everyone. Have a great year. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.